Joining me on the line now is Hugh Bennett, Deputy Editor of Brexit Central. Very good afternoon to you, Hugh.
Good afternoon.
Do we need a new centre party?
Well, I think it's a funny one, this, because, in the last election, we had a centre party. We had the Lib Dems. They were there. They were running on a pretty open anti-Brexit platform. They were going after, the 48% who voted Remain. As it happens, they couldn't even get 8% of the vote.
Yeah, but the problem is nobody trusts the Lib Dems. Isn't that the problem? Nobody trusts the Lib Dems because they were only 2 years out of power. They'd been in cahoots with the Conservative Party. They'd broken all their promises on tuition fees. They'd introduced the bedroom tax. They'd voted against disability benefits. So maybe the trust will return. Who knows in a few years? But as things stand, and then to top it all, they had a leader who was very dodgy when it came to gay rights, which isn't exactly very good if you're a liberal. So just because the Lib Dems did badly doesn't necessarily mean, some might argue, that a centre party, a new centre party, would do badly.
So when you look at all the people that are lining up to support this new centre party, you've basically got all of the leading figures from the Blair era who are even less trusted than the Lib Dems. The idea that some reboot with everyone's least favourite Blair politicians of yesteryear is going to somehow invigorate people to this new sort of idea of the centrist anti-Brexit party more than the Lib Dems. I just don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think it's hard to see where the support's going to come from, and I think purely in terms of the Brexit issue. The LSE Oxford study that came out today, I think the number of people that are actually opposed to Brexit and the number of people that are actually opposed to the so-called hard Brexit, I think there's 68% support for a hard Brexit over a soft Brexit amongst the population at large. So I think the idea that there is this huge group of people who want to stop Brexit, I think people have moved on, people have accepted it, and so I think a new party will really struggle to find any core support in that regard.
And Hugh, it's Nick here, Nick Dubois. Good afternoon to you. Isn't the reality, though, that a new party as a serious option would need to be more than a single-issue party anyway? Isn't that underlying what you're saying? Brexit's been voted for. Brexit is now underway for delivery. A single-issue party, isn't that more chance of being a bunch of grumpy MPs who are going to try and salvage a political career?
I think all the talk has really been in terms of it being a single issue. I think these are the sort of conversations that a few Labour Blairite MPs are having, dinner parties in Hampstead and places like that. But they aren't the conversations that are going on in the country at large about stopping Brexit. So I think I think there is space. There is clearly space in the centre left with Corbyn having moved the Labour Party to the left. But whether people are going to actually jump ship from the Labour Party and actually back a new party which has pretty small chance of actually getting any seats, I think it's quite unlikely. I think people are much more likely to sort of stick with Labour, even if they do find Corbyn's politics quite a long way from their own, or actually they'll go to the Conservatives.
Hugh, sorry to cut you off there, but in a way, the Labour Party, I take your point about that. But funny enough, I'm more worried about the Conservative Party, because in many respects, the Conservative Party now is going to bury itself in trying to deliver on Brexit. Now, the reality is that to win the next election, it is more than likely that people are going to vote for a party that has ideas for the future, that has a vision for the future to meet the present challenges, than look back and say, thank you for delivering Brexit, whatever your views were on Brexit, thanks for what you did then. Are we not in danger in the Conservative Party now of becoming managers of the government and losing the ability to create the new ideas for the future? And if we don't do that, maybe there is room for another party with ideas.
I fully agree that there's a danger of that, and I think the way that the Conservatives have played Brexit so far, I think it's been quite defensive. I think they haven't been going out there putting a vision out there for they're saying yes, we're delivering Brexit, we're delivering the democratic vote of the people, but we're not actually saying why is this actually a great opportunity for our country? Why is this actually this is going to help our economy grow? This is going to help boost our trade with countries all over the world. And I think if the Conservatives realise that that there is actually a positive story to be solved with Brexit, and I think that's the best way to actually make Brexit a success. To keep people's confidence up, to get people behind it and believing in it. Then I think they can head off those problems. I think if they do carry on being quite defensive on Brexit, then you're right. They may get to the end of the process and people think, they've just kind of sort of run out of steam. They've managed this Brexit process, but we're not feeling very inspired.
Has to be said though that there isn't a history, is there? A recent history of a new party coming on the scene from the centre, or indeed from the right or left, and making a parliamentary breakthrough. The STP almost managed it. They almost overtook the Labour Party in 1983 in terms of the popular vote. Yeah. But our political system isn't really set up, is it, for new political parties to break through?
Well, you say that in some sense, but then obviously you look at the huge SNP breakthrough in the 2015 general election. So it was an 80-year-old party that had been in government in Holyrood for a decade. So it had a very long track record. People knew where they stood with it, and it had MPs off and on since 1945. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. No, I think you are right. Certainly, I think that the first past the post system, the established parties, they do make it very difficult. That's not to say that a new party can't have a big impact. I mean, you look at UKIP; they never made a parliamentary breakthrough, but there's no doubt that they were able to strongly influence Conservative government policy despite not having a parliamentary presence. I think the threat of UKIP, particularly in a lot of marginal seats where they would have been the difference between the Conservatives losing to Labour or not, meant that they were able to exert far more influence over the political process than their number of MPs would allow. But I think that the difficulty with the anti-Brexit vote is that I don't think the support is. But the support for blocking Brexit is spread out around the country in the same way that support for leaving the EU was. So I don't know whether it would have such an effect on the arithmetic.
Hugh, I feel we will be talking about this again. That was Hugh Bennett, Deputy Editor of Brexit Central.